Hello everybody and welcome to the extended essay days. So, summer break is right around the corner. I know it's difficult to focus, but you have just one assignment left that you have to complete before you step outside and enjoy the summer. And that assignment is the skeleton essay. And this presentation will prepare you for writing the skeleton essay. And even though I know it's difficult to sit inside and focus when the weather is nice and it's been a tough year, then I still really urge you to put in effort, because I can promise you that all the work you put in during these 3 days will really pay off when you return to Third Eye and suddenly have to hand in a full extended essay. So in this introduction, I'll say a bit about the what's coming, so the EE calendar, and then I will introduce you to sort of the formal requirements of the skeleton essay, having to do with front page, table of content, referencing, bibliography, and then the skeleton essay should also have 1,000 words of body content. So more on this later. There's also something on spacing and font size and all that jazz. And then I'm going to say something about the structure of an academic essay and give you some tools to use on how to structure your essay. And at the end, there is a guided tour of the EE notebook, because there's still, of course, a lot of nice information in there for you to use. So what remains of the EE activities planned for Second Eye are the extended essay days. So you can see here that on day 1, there is this video with an introduction to formal criteria and stuff like that. And then on the 3rd day, which would be Wednesday, June 23 at 12 o'clock, you have to hand in the skeleton essay, formal hand in Lectio. And then there's something on what should be in the skeleton essay, but more on that later. What I want you to keep in mind is that all the other activities, all the other EE activities that's been taking place during Second Eye have been designed to prepare you for this, right? So please keep in mind that you have already been informed about and know how to search for information, and you've been introduced to a reading strategy, and you have completed a literature review with a lot of nice information and sources that you could use. And you have had oral presentations, you've gotten feedback, you've written your first formal reflection. So use all this, use all the skills you have acquired and all the information that you've been given, and put it to work, so to speak, so that you can end up producing a nice skeleton essay. Yes, and then just, here we go, extended essay in Third Eye. Just to kind of let you know what's coming. So in August, you'll meet with your supervisors again for just a talk on what's coming and answers to questions you might have. And then we would have writing days. The first writing day for the first draft will be September 3rd, and then September 6th, you hand in the first draft. And on the first writing day, you also complete the second formal reflection. And then you'll get both oral and written feedback on your first draft. And then there's a one final writing day for sort of using all the feedback you've gotten to prepare and write the final version of your essay. And then you hand in your final essay, and then after your supervisor have read your final essay, then there is the Viva Voce, which is an interview where you sit and you talk about the process that you've been through together with your supervisor. So it's a one-to-one meeting with your supervisor. And then based on the Viva Voce, you write the final formal reflection and hand that in, and that's the end of the EE process for you. Then a little later, you'll have to upload your extended essay to IB, but more on that later. But so a little bit more about those EE days that have just started. So, like I said, there is the introduction video. You should, of course, watch this. And then you could also expect a meeting with your supervisor. I guess that for many of you it's already been scheduled, so you know when to meet with them. Some of you may also have talked to your supervisor earlier, and that's just fine, so you already have the information you need. And please also feel free to send them a message, and if they have time, they will of course answer. I will be available for more general questions in the chat in the Extended Essay team, and I'll be available throughout second and third module on Monday and Tuesday. And if you prefer to talk to me instead of writing, then you could just send me a message and let me know that you would like me to call you, and then I'll call you, then I'll fit you in, and I'll call you when I have time. There's also going to be, or there are 2 worksheets or pages in your researcher's reflection space in your personal section in the EE OneNote. And those 2 worksheets are for you to complete during Monday. So those pages should be completed Monday, June 21st, no later than 6 o'clock in the evening. And this is how we take absence, right? So if those pages are not completed by this deadline, then you will get absence for Monday. And this is not just something that we've designed to check absence. Those worksheets have been designed as preparation for actually writing the skeleton essay. So completing these worksheets would also help you prepare sort of puzzle pieces that you could then use in the skeleton essay. And like I said before, the skeleton essay is due June 23 at 12 noon. And it's as a hand-in Lectio, so you have to upload to Lectio. And what are the requirements for the skeleton essay? So this is a list of what you have to have in your skeleton essay. You should have a front page. Sometimes this is also referred to as a title page. You should have a table of content. And it says here in brackets that it should be based on the worksheet called Mapping Your Essay. So more on that later. So Mapping Your Essay will prepare you for putting together the table of content. And then you should also have 1,000 words of body content, including some proper scientific references. So you also start producing actual text for your extended essay, and then you should also have a bibliography at the end. So a bit more on these different things here. So a title page should look something like this, right? So it's actually optional to have a title as such. You can also just state your research question and have that as the title of your essay. You could also choose, like this student has to have a title and then the research question down here. Then you should state your subject, and in some subjects there are also categories. Those would be the languages primarily. So in the sciences and in history and business management and psychology, there are no categories. And if there's no categories, then of course you don't state any category. So only if you know that you're writing in a language and that there is a specific category do you state the category. Then you should also state the word count. And for the skeleton essay, the word count you state is the word count of your skeleton essay. You should not have any name or candidate number or school name appear anywhere, because IB wants you to upload anonymously so that they don't know anything about gender or nationality or anything like that. So that was the title page. Then the table of content should look something like this. So page numbers should be placed on the far right. You should try to make the headings here explanatory so that the reader, just by looking at the table of content, would get a pretty good impression of what's coming and your argument, your thesis and your argument and your conclusion, right? So that should show in the headings what's coming. Yes. Yeah, so the table of content should you can think of it basically as an outline of your essay. And then in terms of referencing, then IB does not specify a specific style, right? So you could choose whatever system you like. We have decided that at Nyborg Gymnasium we're using either APA or Chicago, and it's very important that once you've picked your referencing style, that you follow it consistently. So hopefully by now most of you would know which reference style to use, and if not, then you can ask your supervisor. And there's more information on how to reference using the two different systems in OneNote. And then of course a bibliography, and the bibliography should have like the full reference of the different things. I have also earlier mentioned the little program Zotero, and again there is an introduction to that in the OneNote. So if you want to have a program that sort of helps you keep track on your sources and manage them, then that little program is a very nice tool that could be used for that. And then there are some other formal sort of requirements. So yeah, like I just mentioned, IB prescribes title page, table of contents. Then you should also have page numbers, and those should be at the bottom of the page, right or center. Font size should be 12. And there are some fonts that are preferred because they're easy to read, right? So Arial, Times New Roman, Calibri. You should use double space between your lines. You should use proper referencing. You should have a bibliography, and the word count of the extended essay is a maximum of 4,000 words. And how do you know what's included? Well, you do because there is this very nice table, and this can also be found in OneNote. So here it's described what is included and what is not included in the word count, right? So you could have tables with raw data if you have measured something in the sciences. You can have maps and charts and diagrams. Those would not be included in the word count. Or you could have equations and formulas and calculations, and bibliography is also not included. So there's actually room for quite a lot of things in the extended essay without this counting as towards the word count. But what is included is anything in footnotes, for instance. So you can't put a lot of analysis down into a footnote and then think it doesn't count, because it does. All quotes that you put in would also count towards the word count. Chapter headings, whatever, all these things, right? So this is your go-to table if you're in doubt about how to figure out your word count. So now we've covered the sort of the formal criteria of both the skeleton essay and also actually the final essay, the whole spacing and all that. And now on to something that has to do with how to structure your essay, and also sort of the whole writing process of the essay. But we start off someplace slightly different, right? Because usually what happens when students have sort of an assignment like this in their mind, they think of it, and I have already emphasized this in earlier sessions, but you tend to think of this as a linear process, right? And I think the reason people think of writing essays as a linear process is because that's the way you read essays, right? You would start with the introduction, then you would read your way through the main body, and you would reach the conclusion at the end. So reading the essay is a linear process, but writing the essay is quite different from that. So you have already conducted what I would consider pre-writing, right? You have your literature review, you have something in your topic proposal, you have bits and pieces perhaps in your researcher's reflection space. So you have gathered idea and outlined perhaps things and whatever. So you have prepared for the actual drafting of your essay, which is what's starting now, basically. And that process is not a linear process. It's more of a circular process, right? So you would have to go back and forth between different paragraphs, and then once a paragraph is done, then you realize you have to change something in your introduction, and if you then include an extra source, then maybe your conclusion will change a little bit. So drafting your essay is back and forth all the time. And only once the first draft is completed and everything is in the right order and you have proofread and everything, then you would start to fix punctuations and spelling and whatever. This is more for after the summer break, because you're going to stay in the drafting process throughout these 3 EE days. So you should think of what is happening now as you creating puzzle pieces. So during the essay days, you're gonna produce perhaps a bit of a body paragraph, perhaps some of your introduction, and then you move on and do a little bit on the next paragraph, and then you realize, well, I also need to introduce something up here in my introduction. So you're putting together small puzzle pieces, and it's most likely gonna change after the summer break, right? So you should not necessarily consider what you produce, the body, the text, the 1,000 words of body content that you produce during these days is not necessarily gonna look the same in your first draft, because writing is also thinking and researching sort of intertwined. But you are in the process of making the puzzle pieces that will later become the first draft. So one of the things that I'm asking you to do in one of the worksheets that are in OneNote is to map your essay, to get an overview of the structure of your essay. And to help you a little bit on doing that, I'm going to introduce these 2 models of how to structure an academic essay. So this model here has, so all essays basically consist of 3 parts. So you would have an introduction, you would have a body, and you would have a conclusion at the end. And what this model does is that it explains how the introduction helps point the reader in the right direction, right? So you would have an introduction and you would outline what's coming, and you would make your claim, and you would introduce the methods that you're going to use, outline those. And all of this should point the reader towards the body paragraphs that are then coming. And down here in the body of the paragraph, the aim is to convince the reader that the conclusion stated down here is actually correct. So in these body paragraphs, you're arguing your case, basically. And then down here, you, of course, answer your research question, write the conclusion, and then you also, at the end, broaden your perspective. So you compare to other people's findings, and you propose possible further investigations in this field. This is another model showing pretty much the same thing, right? Again, you have the introduction, and you have the body, and you have the conclusion. What this model does is that it also shows how the different that the body of the essay is made of individual paragraphs, right? So each of these paragraphs would deal with a certain sort of subtopic. Yes. So that was the outline, so to speak, of an academic essay, and this will also show, this would help you, mapping your essay will help you create the table of content. And again, here are 2 examples of that. This is a language essay, and over here we have a science essay. So, and what is, there will of course be differences between subjects, right? So in the sciences, it's going to look pretty much like a normal report, right? So you would have your methodology, you would present your data, you would discuss. And in the languages and history and things like that, it might be more like like the general structure, right? So you would have a certain theme or a certain claim, subclaim, so to speak, part of the thesis. You would analyze a specific piece of the text or use a specific type of analysis. And that would then be your first body paragraph metaphors up here, right? And then something else, then you would have an analysis, specific type of analysis, and then focus on other things further down in the third or fourth paragraph of the essay. And then in terms of writing the individual paragraphs for the body, then I'm pretty sure that many of you would have heard about this model before in the languages or in history or some of the other subjects. And this is a method that you could sort of have in the back of your mind when producing paragraphs for your body, right? So it's the PEEL model. P stands for point, E, the first E stands for evidence, the second E for explain, and the L stands for link. And it's explained up here, right? So first you make your point, because when starting reading a paragraph, the reader should not have to read half the paragraph before they realize what the central argument is or what the point you're trying to make is. Your reader should not search for that. It should be right there in the beginning of the paragraph. Then you should back up your point with evidence. That could be a quote from a poem. It could be data from your data collection. It could be statistics. It could be whatever kind of evidence you have to use in your subject. Then you explain a little bit more, and then you link to the next paragraph, or you sum up what you have now figured out, so that it's easy for the reader to see, okay, so this was the point, it's backed up by evidence, this is how it works, and now on to something else. So this is an example, of course, right? You can have a closer look at that. The claim is made up here that a confrontational relationship is created, and this is shown, and then there's evidence backing up the claim, right? So there's a quote from this book or whatever it is, and then there is an explanation of the quote, and then there is a sum up at the end here. And here is an example from another. This is economics, I guess, right? So the point first, then some evidence, some numbers, some data here, and then more explanation, and then a sum up or a sort of a sub-conclusion here at the end. Writing paragraphs like this makes it much easier for the reader to follow the argument and see what's going on in your essay. What you should also try to do is to constantly guide your reader. And to do that, you could use what's called linking words between paragraphs, right? So if you want to add to what you have said in that previous paragraph, then you could use linking words like these. So another point that could be made would be this, or similar to that, we can see that blah, 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 or whatever. You could also contrast if you want to make a sort of a counter claim. So on the other hand, it could also be argued that blah, 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 because, and then a second quote or whatever. So use these to sort of help your reader navigate your text. That was just a short introduction to that, and there is more information on these kind of things in OneNote, which is why the next thing is a quick tour of the Extended Essay Notebook. So most of the information you will need throughout these EE days can be found in the section called Writing the Essay. So first page here on the structure of an academic essay, you're going to be asked to read through this in order to complete the first worksheet. Then there's more information on how to create front pages, a little example of, again, a table of content, something about introduction, which might maybe be a good thing to read through if you're planning on producing some text for your introduction. Otherwise, this can wait for the first draft maybe. But then for body content, you can see these different things, and there's more information on how to peel paragraphs, and there is teachers down here giving advice, one on business management and one on the languages here. Something on how to write paragraphs in economics. So there's specific guidance for at least some of the subjects down here. Then there is a general section on how to write in a formal academic way. So basically do's and don'ts, and also some examples. So again, nice information on how to properly put together academic sentences. There's also a section here on, or this is a chapter from a book, on how to show analysis in writing, words to use, and again, how to structure that and how to do that. Then there's this page on how to, the two types of referencing, and IB's official effective citing and referencing document that you can look through. Conclusion is not really relevant at this point in time, but here is information on the formal presentation, and again for later, for the first draft, there is also a presentation checklist. And then in each of your research or reflection spaces, you could find the two worksheets that are due Monday. There's one called Formal Requirements and Writing Strategy, where you'll be asked some general questions on referencing style and stuff like that, just to make sure that you actually know this and know where to find specific pieces of information. Then you're also going to be asked to produce a peel paragraph that you could use as part of your body content. So you should put in that peel paragraph down here. And the mapping your essay worksheet looks like this. So there are 3 tasks here. So first, read the page on structure of an academic essay, and then this is actually sort of a framework for mapping your essay. So basically, first you state your thesis. A thesis is kind of like a hypothesis, right? So it's the statement that you sort of work towards convincing your reader is correct. And then something about why it's important to make that claim, and then blah, 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 all these different things down here. And then afterwards, once you've done this, then based on the stuff that you've written up here in the table, you should then produce your table of content. So those are the 2 worksheets that you should complete. And then to wrap up this introduction, I just want to remind you of this graph or this diagram that I showed you in February when you started the whole EE process. So it shows how much knowledge you have. That's the green line, and it shows the number of questions that you have and really need answers to in order to be able to proceed. So this graph explains why you will many times during the EE process become frustrated. And I'm sure that many of you had already had at least one, maybe more moments where it felt like this and you just wanted to throw away your research question and start over. But then you found a source that made it all tie together, or you talked to your supervisor and he or she was able to help you move on. And you will very likely have moments like this again during these extended essay days, but I'm pretty sure that you will also have moments like this. So keep at it. There is light at the end of the tunnel.
Diesel is for unbelievers. Electricity is wrong. Steam has got the power that will pull us along. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. The inside might be as black as the night, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Sing it, children.